That's crazy. So, okay, I'm just like really thinking like, I need to get it together. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Page One of Some, the place where I don't have all the answers, but I'm starting the conversations and I'm making a difference eventually. So today's topic is not the happiest thing, but it is the realest shit you'll probably ever hear because we all go through it, and maybe some things we haven't even thought about. Do you have a will? Because I know I don't, and I'm pretty sure a bunch of millennials don't. And other things like common law relationships, which is very common with our generation, and marriages. So today I am lucky enough to have Rav from Indigo Blue Legal Group. She is a family lawyer, and she's going to talk to us about all of this real exciting stuff. So now let's start off with wills. So we always hear about wills being done when you're so much older or when you get sick and you know, I'm up there, so I gotta divide my assets. It's that time. But we never hear about the importance of millennials making wills. Yeah. Why is that so important?
The one thing I want to start off with before we get into this topic is that one famous saying. I think we've all heard it. Two things in life that are inevitable are death and taxes.
Yes.
You're gonna have to pay your taxes and you're gonna eventually die. I hate to say it, but they haven't invented anything for immortality yet.
Exactly.
So for millennials, it's important to get a will. Just based on the lifestyle we have. We're moving in with our significant others. We're getting married. You're owning homes, you're owning cars. You know, we own these sneakers that are worth a lot. We own these designer bags that are worth
it's
a lot.
So true.
We have our pets, you know, our dogs, our cats, our lizards. There's a lot of things that are to be taken into consideration. We have some savings in our bank account. Or if you get a job where you have a retirement saving plan, all that stuff needs to be taken into consideration.
Okay, so when you're having a will, as we all know, these things are all listed and then it gets divided up as you say. So what happens if, like a lot of us do, we don't have a will? So what happens in that case?
What happens when you don't have a will is what I usually call the up and out. If you don't have a spouse, it usually goes to your parents.
Okay.
And if it doesn't go to your parents, or if your parents are no longer alive, it goes to your siblings, and then it trickles down, so forth.
Okay. So I don't know if it's true, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard your social media accounts can be put into your will. Is that true?
Yes. So your social media accounts can actually be put into your will if you want a certain person to have access to the accounts. It's important just to put it in there because if somebody's reading your will, they'll know that, you know, if they're listening to you or they're abiding by your wishes, they'll know this is what they want to do with their social media accounts. You know, sometimes we run into that friend's account who's passed away for a while, and you know, it brings up a lot of emotions. So sometimes people want their social media accounts to be canceled, or they only want certain people to have access to them.
Now, not to say anything negative about the will process, but I know a lot of us have heard about it, that I don't need a will. I could write some stuff down on a piece of paper and say, blah, 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 I want this happen, give this to this person, whatever, and then tell your mom, your dad, your sister, your cat, your dog, it's in the drawer to the left, this is what you do when I die. Does that work? Is that real?
While that is legal, it's called a holographic will. What ends up happening is it could be argued in court. So if somebody, you know, wants something that you have, or they're claiming that they have a right to that, they might be able to take it to court and argue it. And at that time, you might need someone to prove the handwriting was yours.
Oh my God. It's like a whole thing.
Yeah. So it's important when you go to a lawyer, they help you ensure that your will is protected and it's they're taking all the precautions to make sure that it, even if it is argued in court, it will stand up.
Okay, so the difference of in turn writing something out yourself and seeing a lawyer just to make sure your shit gets handed out to the right people in the right way and kind of eliminate that stress for people on the other end.
Yeah, it protects you essentially. It solidifies it more and it makes it less arguable or less, I wouldn't say fake, but it'll hold up in court better.
Okay, and then one thing that I've researched a lot in terms of millennials is our travel habit. So compared to any other generation, we travel the most, and we're all about the experience. Maybe it's for ourselves, maybe it's for an Instagram post, but that's what we're trying to do. And I think that's another big reason to create a will, because you never know. Skydiving, anything, knock on wood.
Yep.
You need to have that there, right?
You need to have a will. We travel a lot, you know, as you said, we're the generation that travel.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen. You want to be able to have your assets being taken care of in case something happens. Or your puppy, you know, you want him to go to the right person. If you don't have a good relationship, and if you don't have a spouse and you don't have a good relationship with your family, you want it to maybe go with your best friend, or you want it to go with your next door neighbor. All that stuff needs to be indicated on who you want to go where. That brings me actually to another point with powers of attorney for health. So I also help people, in addition to wills, in addition to helping them plan their estate, we help with powers of attorney for property as well as health care. So say for example, you went ziplining, it broke. You know, you're now in a coma. What happens to you? Who gets to make your healthcare decisions? If you don't want your wife or your husband to make those decisions, or your parents aren't there to make decisions, and your brother's your next of kin or your sister's the next of kin, and you don't want them making decisions because you just started dating this girl a little while ago and you want her to make your decisions, it's okay. It should just be indicated on that power of attorney.
Wow. I need to get a will. I'm like really realizing so many things. Okay, so now say if I don't have any assets, or I'm not married or not in a common law relationship, basically I don't have shit. Should I still be getting a will?
Yes, you should get a will at any point of your life where there's a major event going on. If you get a new job and you get certain benefits from there, or even if you have $5 to your name or $10,000 to your name, it's important to make a will to be able to not only distribute those assets or decide what happens when you pass away. In fact, it's helpful for the person once you pass away and you have the will in a spot where someone can access it. What happens to your body if you pass away? Do you want a burial? Do you want cremation? I would just like to say that if you don't make these decisions beforehand, sometimes your family or your friends or your loved ones are the ones that have to make these decisions upon your death. And sometimes, and you know, when you've passed away, not only are they grieving, they're going to have to make, you know, decisions on what happens to this asset, what happens to that asset. And you just want to let them be worry free. In addition to, you know, giving them money or giving them, you know, some of your goods that you have.
Just have them grieve accordingly.
The best gift you can give someone is peace of mind.
So true.
So the one thing with wills is if you don't take care of them while you're alive, and you don't plan your estate, the government essentially gets to decide what happens to your estate, and they might tax your assets.
Wait, so even when you're dead, you're paying taxes?
Oh yes. So they tax you for the year while you were alive, and then they also tax you for your estate tax when you pass away. So what ends up happening is that you end up paying all this tax. So if you don't have a will and you don't take all this into consideration, you might end up paying more taxes on your assets and all your holdings that you have than you need to.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you die.
Yes.
And you have to pay taxes.
Yes.
But if you have a will, in a sense, these things can be avoided because regardless you're paying taxes. But if you have a will, the amount can be so much higher. Or sorry, if you don't have a will, the amount can be so much higher. Yeah,
so if you go with the lawyer can explain to you, depending on this transfer or that transfer, if you want to give a certain account to a certain person, they can tell you what the tax liabilities are for that.
Okay, so if you write on a piece of paper, you don't even know that your mom, your dad, your sister is going to pay like $1 million in taxes, whereas you could have already given that information.
Yeah, so if the money comes to them, they're going to have to declare it as income and it could be taxed. So you might want to give them $100,000, but depending on the tax rate, depending on who you're giving it to, they might get taxed on it.
So essentially, if you don't have a will, you can screw over the people you love. Basically.
And I think, you know, some people really think about it, I'm dead, I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
But when you pass away, there are some loved ones that you have. You want to make sure that they don't have these stresses. And if, you know, you want to ensure that they're getting what you're giving them. And if you go with the lawyer, they're making sure that everything is explained. Everything that you're dispersing or you're giving away, you're fully knowing what the consequences are of giving that away, if it can hold up in court or if it can't.
Okay, so a lot of research has shown millennials are not really getting married, so we are more likely to be in common law relationships. And there are a lot of different rules, right, in terms of common law and marriage. So is it true that you can pretty much take anything, take half of everything when you're common law?
So not when you're common law. There's two things to be said about a common law relationship. In Ontario, when you've been living together for 3 years or more without a kid, you're considered to be in a common law relationship.
Okay.
If you have a child, it's considered a year and you've been living together.
Okay.
And then the other thing is marriage. So when you're married, your spouse has the ability to take half the value of all your assets minus your liabilities. So many people don't know that, but once you get married, unless you have a domestic contract, they can take half.
Wow. And domestic contract, aka prenup, but we don't call it prenup.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So prenup, because I know you guys are familiar with that one.
Exactly. In common law, in order for them to claim that they have a right to half your assets or liabilities for that matter, they're gonna have to prove that one party was unjustly enriched and that the parties were in a joint family venture, so that they, there was a lot of factors that go into determining that. But with common law couples, you don't automatically have that right that married couples do.
Okay, so even though you are common law, it is still a moment where you can go to court.
Yes.
And you can still be liable, I heard, to pay spousal support.
Yes. So if you're married...
I'm sorry to interrupt. You people need to love the people that you're with, because like hearing all of this stuff, oh my, imagine just paying for someone to live. You weren't even married to them.
Yes. So there, depending on the facts, once again,
Yeah.
there can be an argument made for spousal support. So even if you're not married, you might be obligated to give the other party money, or you might have a right to spousal support.
Wow. Okay, so I know you guys can tell by my facial expressions that I have learned a lot. I need to see you and create a will. My goodness. So I know you have learned a lot. So if anyone has more questions, or if you're smart enough to realize, okay, it's time to make a will, how can they contact you? And I'm so sorry, not even just a will, but those agreements in terms of these common law relationships, or your AKA prenup, so-called prenup, all of that stuff to protect yourself. So like I was saying, how can they find you?
So they can find me on Indigo Blue Legal on Instagram, or they can go to our website at iblegal.ca, or they can contact me directly at familylaw@indigoblue.ca.
So thank you so much. I do not think I've learned so much stuff in one thing. I'm just like in shock. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tune in to next week. Have a good day.